Let's get some flutes in the chat because it is time for Dave Meltzer's Dumb Moment of the Week. So Meltzer said what destroyed Dave Meltzer. We covered this a little bit before, where Meltzer was like responding to this Robbie Steven guy who's like, why do they keep the numbers so private at Max? And Meltzer's like, one, well, because almost all individual streaming numbers for shows are much lower than the top shows on television. There are exceptions, but only a few. So it's better the illusion than the reality. Two, it gives the services a leg up in negotiations with show producers for new shows because Tony Khan, those that negotiate can't point to numbers and value. And then, yeah, Meltzer said what just destroys that. He's like, because almost all individual streaming numbers for shows are much lower than the top shows on television. Dave, number two, they're AEW not as hot as they were a year ago. I think I covered this last time, but yeah. But maybe they are, and we just don't know because so many people are watching on Max. Utter ludicrous pomposity. If you missed it last time, here, let's listen to this one again.
If the promotion's dead, they're not going to draw with it. If the promotion's alive, they will. And that's why I think like next Friday, we're going to have a lot better understanding of Max and of AEW than we have right now.
How hard is it going to be to get that number, though? Because they were pushing the Prime thing really hard. So now, they got YouTube and payperview.com. And
it's a combination of numbers.
And crash-ass Triller that was crashing.
It always was. I mean, here's the thing. In theory, Amazon should help, right?
It should. I don't know anybody who uses Amazon's pay-per-view function. Like even the hardcore boxing fans, yes. I don't know anyone else who uses it, but basically, you're going to have access to that information, or Tony will have access.
Tony's going to have.
How about your reporting of it? Like how do you think it changes?
Yes, but we'll know. We'll know in some form. This isn't like
we'll know. I'll just make it up if I'm not told anything. I'll just lie about it.
Max numbers where like literally nobody knows. This will be numbers that grant not too many people are going to know, but it'll be enough to where we're gonna. It's like we'll have an idea. We'll have an idea by the end.
It won't be too many people, but it'll be like a little. Well, it's like we'll have an idea. I'll make up the idea behind the ideas. I made up the idea, Brian.
By the end of the week, on
what's going to be your over/under?
And then listen to this part. It should help. Listen to this. What's the over/under? He gives a number, and then Brian goes, "Well, what was it the time before?" Then listen to the number he gives. So he's implying here that Amazon Prime is going to get AEW 30 or 40,000 more pay-per-view buys. Listen to this shit.
Man, I don't know. 125, 130.
125, 130. What?
Yeah. In that range. What do you think? I know why we're looking on our board and everybody thought higher. But it's like, they're not as hot as they were a year ago. But maybe they are, and we just don't know it because so many people are watching on Max, and we're not.
Oh, like I know we listened to this last show because I remember this now. But like, oh my god, man, maybe it's hot again, but we just don't know because so many are on Max. Dave believes that 500,000 people. This is the lie he's trying to get out to these idiots. Oh yeah, there's 500,000 people watching on Max. People on my board, Brian, were saying they thought it'd be higher. They're all dumb, Dave. Jesus Christ, it's not good. You should reevaluate who you allow on your board.
Not seeing it, and again, this,
what was the World's End number?
World's End at the end of the year. That was up a little bit. So probably 105, 110.
So he goes, what do you think this pay-per-view will do? 135, Brian. Well, what does World's End do? Well, World's End was actually up in sales. Did 105, 110, which I don't believe that. So what Dave said before, this is why Brian just almost did a gotcha to him. And that's why he just changed the subject, because otherwise he's got to explain to Dave. So you think you think Prime added what? 30,000 pay-per-view buys, Dave? 20,000 or whatever? Is that what you're trying to say? There's no way that happened. There was 20,000 illegally watching it on that guy's Twitch thing that we looked at in AEW News.
10, I'm going to guess.
And this is historically a pretty good drawing show for them.
Well, last year it was because of Sting. You know,
last year it was because of Sting, Brian. Holy shit, man. What a crazy dummy. So Dave Meltzer gets into it with Brian Gewirtz, right? So we covered round 1 earlier. Here's round 2. Andrew responds to Dave and goes, and what did Gewirtz say? I'm taking that who works with The Rock over anything else. Meltzer goes, so you didn't read, as I figured. So you didn't read. Dummy, did you read what Gewirtz said, though? You're wrong and an idiot. Now I'm going to go, you just didn't read what I said? I actually am right, even though I'm still wrong if you read it, like Phil did. Said the story about, but quickly, in 2023, Gewirtz said the story about Dwayne being in talks to do the Inglewood Mania was made up. Later, Dwayne did multiple interviews saying they were very close and it almost happened. So what about last year? What about this year? Why are you going back to 2023 with some semantical bullshit? What about this year where you're wrong? What about last year where you're wrong? What about last year where you pulled up a clip of Triple H and Dwayne Dewey from 2013 and tried to tell everybody it was a clip it was a vignette that they cut recently? Whoever called Raquel devouring Bailey in chat should get a cookie because that's insane. And yeah, Dave just really coping here. Brian Gewirtz said no, and then just Brian Gewirtz owns his ass. Nope. I said your reasoning for him not doing Mania, not having enough time to get in ring shape was wrong, and it 100% was, which is backed up further by what Dave says. The Rock went out, because Dave is trying to say, well, The Rock went out there and said that they almost got it done. They were so close, which proves what I was saying. But then Gewirtz is like, no, you dummy. I'm saying the reason you said not having enough time to get in shape, that's not true. That was the not true part, you idiot. And you just proved that because you're talking about how very close it was to happening. So it's probably something not in shape thing. Probably some contractual or a bigger obligation. So here's Chad Gable being interviewed by Kathy Kelly. And he's going to do the Mr. America Hogan thing. And be like, that wasn't me. Da-da-da-da-da. So this is actually hilarious. I'm super into this Gable thing. Nav Streak says Rock confirmed on Pat's show that the reason the match didn't happen was due to creative differences, LMAO. And Gewirtz, just like Ari Emanuel said, there's going to be big shit popping off at Chamber way in advance. And Gewirtz says he did. It's out there for the world to see, but Dave will never admit he's wrong. He'll just deflect and dust off that old Frank DeFord article stating how wonderful he is. But I know the story and he is wrong. And unlike his sources, I'll attach my name to that statement. Cook him, Gewirtz. Cook his bit down. See, there's a dude dressed like Gable in a lucha mask. This is crazy. Damn, Gable's on some other shit. I love this. I love whatever they're doing here. But, yeah, man, Rock confirmed on Pat's show. Ari Emanuel confirmed on Pat's show. That's why Pat has them on. And Gewirtz is confirming here. Dave's in the mud. So Meltzer said what post Wrestle Talk 2020? Here's a throwback. Dave Meltzer says WrestleMania match was the most boring ever. This is a Wrestle Talk headline in 2020. And this is, remember when Dave was like, well, Edge has never had a bad match ever. Moxley, you can't have a bad match, and Edge has never had a bad match, Brian. Meanwhile, here's what he had to say about what I believe was called the greatest match of all time, or whatever they called it, right? To troll
the best guys, Tony Khan.
At the time, and to troll the sheets. But Meltzer says WrestleMania match was the most boring ever. I was ready to confess to crimes if they'd end this Chinese water torture match 8 minutes ago. There have been technically worst matches, but none as boring. The worst matches in Mania history often were short. The announcers did them no favors, whispering like it was the 13th hole in Augusta, which only made things more boring. By 12, it sucked. By 18, it was Chinese water torture. And it went 36-32 before Edge won, Brian. What was this? Was this the match that was like the greatest match of all time or whatever? Right? And Meltzer was just saying that shit. Edge can't have a bad match, Brian. Look at this poll. If you watched AEW Revolution, what did you think of the show? Well, you all know what I think. I'm not even putting it on the poll because I know the answer.
The best guy is Tony Khan.
But I'll put Tony Khan on my poll and let him do a little dance, Brian. If you watched Revolution, what did you think of the show? It was great. Look at their audience, man. And then they got ratioed still. It's great. It's nuts, man. 52% thought it was great. Now, again, if you thought that, that's great. Good for you. Was it a great pay-per-view? Sit there and think about what the word great means. Think about the great pay-per-views that there have been. Just every Fed you can think of. Was that a great all-time pay-per-view? No, it was not. I'm so sorry. Like, no. It just absolutely objectively wasn't. You know, there was some decent stuff on there. One of the worst endings to a pay-per-view ever. Like, if Bischoff did that, he'd be getting clowned to this day for that shit. Right? So it's pretty crazy. And then fine, 12%. That's what I voted. Good, 20. And then bad, 14. And I'm not saying it has to be bad either. I voted fine. It was a fine show, but it wasn't like exceptional or great. Here's Dave Meltzer just glazing Ospreay and Fletcher like you knew he'd do. This is going to get 6 stars. That match was unreal. But, Will won via actually Spanish fly off of the, well, it's not really Spanish. She's from the UK, Brian, but, actually, Spanish fly off the top of the cage and Tiger Driver. Total bloodbath. These 3 matches in a row were unreal. To have those 3 in a row, that's the problem. None of them were unreal. Yeah, it's unreal because you don't retain it. Seems like it didn't even happen. It seems fake, Dave. No one retained anything from that match other than that Spanish fly spot. And it wasn't even, they still did more shit after that. Ospreay may have been hurt. He was limping to the back and landed on his hip off the cage. And I love that because I just want to see them get hurt, Brian. I don't really give a. That's the facts, man. He doesn't give a bruv. He doesn't care if these people really hurt themselves, dude, and smash their hips into.
Master need to obliterate.
He doesn't give a shit, man. He wants to see mayhem and people get hurt, dude. So I quote tweeted and said, this guy refused to even tweet during the WWE Raw on Netflix premiere and nitpicked the John Cena heel turn. But he's about to sit here and live tweet and make Will won. It was amazing. The Spanish Fly Tiger Driver combo. He didn't even tweet about Raw being on Netflix. He nitpicked John Cena's return. Return / heel turn. Clown shoes buffoonery, Dave. I'm at a loss for words. So again, another throwback. So Dave was giving Roman the just a guy treatment 4 days ago while arguing Moxley should have beat him for Wrestler of the Year. Meltzer, you take Roman out of WWE, their performance is very, very similar with him or without him. So here's Dave retrospectively coping over Roman Reigns and Moxley, even back then. Well, it's not that long ago, a couple years ago, but shitting on Roman in the peak of his run. Morph the Cat says, Dave, you handpicked Kenny Omega as the next big thing, and the Young Bucks named their finisher after you. Even if there is no sincere bias, there's a perception there is. Meltzer goes, I picked Roman after his first match as Leaky that I saw. Picked Dwayne after people I trusted saw his first match and raved to me. Similar to Edge. So Dave is... Oh, yeah, I knew they'd be a great talent. Like, he's acting like he is Jim Cornette, bro. He's sitting here speaking as though he is Jim Cornette. This is insane, man.
Thank you. You buy. Boom.
That's why we'll never run out of Meltzer shit, dude. Because he's always on some bullshit, even if you go back in time. Orton and Lesnar in OVW days, after a few matches, I said that how great they were. This is what he's trying to say. His first match is leaky. I said Roman's going to be the guy. I picked Dwayne after people I trusted saw his first match and raved to me. Okay. Similar to Edge. So you didn't even see it. Just people told you. Orton and Lesnar in OVW days, after a few matches. Cena even before OVW. Read back issues and look at earliest references for all. Oh my God. It's like when I go, yeah, this wrestler's great. This wrestler's awesome. I like Zarya. I like Lola. I like this person. And then one of them becomes a star, like the biggest star. And you're like, I picked them out of the whole lineup. If I go back there, Dave, I'm going to see you also putting other people over who didn't become The Rock and shit. That's the most disingenuous, up, like narcissist. That's like some weird sociopathy or something. I really don't even know what that is. That's kooky, dude. I picked them. I trained them. Tony Khan before Tony Khan. The best guy was Dave Meltzer. So here's him talking shit on his show back then, too, in 2023.
The voting. I thought pretty solid that Moxley would win. I mean, it was Moxley and Roman Reigns, and they finished 1-2. So that's fair. And, you take Roman, you take Roman Reigns out of WWE, and their performance is very, very similar with him or without him. You take Moxley out of AEW this year, and it would have been a really tough second half of the year.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, he saved their bacon twice.
So here's the argument for that, and I've seen this in a couple places, is, well, Tony could have just put Jericho in that spot, or Tony could have just put Hangman in that spot. What made Moxley so valuable in that spot?
It wouldn't have worked as well. And they were all...
He definitively... It wouldn't have worked as well. How? How can you say that?
Put on. First of all, Hangman got hurt. So, you can't really say that. But no, Hangman wouldn't have worked as good in that situation. And Jericho, he could have put Jericho in there. We don't know how that would have worked. But he chose Moxley. And the fact is that when Rampage ratings went down, he moved Moxley to Rampage, and those ratings went up. Granted, when he stopped featuring Moxley on it, they went back down again. But he was when he was the pick, and he was very successful. And plus, he had overcome the fact on the
Brian.
Second thing, when Punk beat him, he had to come back from Punk beating him clean to being the guy. And that's a tough situation, because
it's not hard to lose to Punk and then still be able to be the guy. Dave is so ass backwards dumb. Punk is so over that a loss to him doesn't really hurt you, bro.
He lost clean on the pay-per-view, and then had to carry the company when Punk got hurt and left, or was whatever happened.
When Punk got hurt and left. Well, like when he got hurt. See how Dave tries to paint it? Well, like when he got hurt and left the company. Stranded high and dry, Brian. But, and then he walks it back. Well, I mean, he was hurt. He left.
It's a real tough period for the company, because they also took out the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega for several months. So.
Sounds like this place is booked to shit, Dave, even back then. It was being booked shitty, and it's booked shitty to this day, and it's booked shitty now. And it sounds like they're up. So Meltzer said, what says, you have no one to blame but yourself for previously propping up Jon Moxley as the best wrestler in the world and being brainwashed by Uncle Dave's propaganda that he was more valuable than Roman Reigns. So here is the Luthez Ric Flair Awards. And yeah, it's when they voted Mox. He gaslit them, dude. If it isn't the consequences of my own actions, yeah, I don't know. Meltzer said what? Doing the Lord's work. And ladies and gentlemen, that was Flutes in the chat for Dave Meltzer's dumb, stupid idiot moment of the week.